Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Literary Lizzie and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. I read a total of I think 12 books and I'm super excited to share with you guys what I read in the month of May. So let's get started. So the first book that I read this month was Thrive, the Vegan Nutrition Guide to Optimal Performance in Sports and Life by Brazier. So this book was really awesome and I highly recommend you read it because the author describes how eating a plant-based diet is the way to go. Obviously, eating processed food is totally bad for you, and the way he explains these concepts is just like a light bulb going off. I think this 12-week meal plan is great, and I'm currently following it. Well, at least I'm trying to follow it. I definitely follow the breakfast plans and the lunch plans. However, I don't really follow the dinner plans, but I definitely plan to. So this book is super straightforward. It's a great book for people interested in plant-based foods. And yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars and I highly recommend for you guys to read it as well. The next book that I read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This is a memoir written by a psychiatrist who experienced firsthand the atrocities of concentration camps during the 1940s. This book really captures Frankl's frightening struggles as a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp. He is deeply perceptive, taking note of all the cruelties that the other prisoners face and how they try to cope with impossible barriers. His observations lead him to surmise that those who could find meaning or purpose in their suffering were the ones who also seemed better able to find the willpower to go on. This book is really illuminating and intense and thought-provoking. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This is an inspirational memoir about racism and abandonment. Maya and her brother Bailey are sent by their mother to live with their grandmother in a small southern town. When they are reunited with their mother when Maya is 8 years old, something terrible happens to Maya and she has to live with it for the rest of her life. So I loved the brother-sister relationship in this book. For all of Maya's hardships and misfortunes, she's able to overcome them and recognize that her aspirations are totally attainable. I love how she's able to draw inspiration from authors such as Shakespeare, and it really changes her life, and you could just really see her grow throughout this book, and it's just such a wonderful read. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. This was the book that we read for our book club for the month of May. So basically in this book, Hawking explains the possible beginning of the universe, which he refers to as the Big Bang Singularity. He also talks about other bunch of concepts that I can't even remember. I think it talks about like black holes and stuff like that. So basically what I remember, I basically love the tone of the book. You can really feel his excitement for these topics and he's just really enthusiastic about it. And it wasn't an easy read obviously, but he makes it fun and interesting. I gave this book 4 stars out of 5. The next book that I read was Empress of All Seasons by Emiko. This book is set in ancient Japan, which I thought was really cool. We follow Maria Yokai, which is a supernatural being with animalistic traits. She is part of the Animal Wives, which means that she is an outcast for not being beautiful. So instead, her mother trains her for this competition where she can potentially become Empress. She'll have to defeat all the seasonal rooms which are enchanted and super hard to survive in, all the while hiding that she is a yokai. Since this is a standalone, the ending was super rushed and I wish there was more to it. I wish this was a series because this book is really good and I would love to read more, but fortunately it's a standalone. So I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is a contemporary YA romance with LGBT elements. We follow 17-year-old Molly who has a buttload of crushes that she never does anything about because she's afraid of rejection. So this was a cute coming of age book. Molly has a lot of questions and she's a bit embarrassed about getting answers to them because she just feels like everyone already knows everything and she just feels left out in that respect. She's self-conscious about her body and she often gets panic attacks Yeah, who doesn't? I really didn't like the writing style of this book. It was just too informal, a lot of colloquial language going on. But I guess that's kind of to be expected from a contemporary, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. I also thought that for a YA book, there was like an awful lot of talk about sex, and that was just kind of surprising. So I give this book 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. In this world, women have no rights. You basically follow 2 sisters, Serena and Nomi, who basically have 2 very different fates. One in a palace and the other in the prison. They have such a strong sister bond that they will do anything for each other. So Serena was raised to be a Grace, and Nomi was raised, well, she's just super rebellious and she's always messing up everything. But once Nomi does something that technically breaks the law, Serena takes the fall for it, and things quickly go awry. That's how the story kicks off. So basically, I love the setting. The plot was imaginative and super believable. There's tons of character growth for both sisters. I greatly enjoyed seeing the sisters swap positions and seeing each one adapt to their current situation. There's so many strong women in this book. It's an empowering novel where strength is basically the only currency. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. The next book that I read was Immortal Rain by Rhodes. This is the 6th and final book to the Fallen Kingdom series. I am so sad that it ended, but of course, I feel like this book was awesome like all the rest. It was very suspenseful. I was scared the whole entire time for each of the characters. I didn't want anything to happen to them. I quite enjoyed how everything ended, how everything was nicely wrapped up. However, I'm very sad that it had to end. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Wild, Formosa Found on the Pacific Crest Trail by Cheryl. So this is a memoir about a girl that has pretty much messed up her entire life. So she basically hikes the Pacific Crest Trail to get her life on track. This book was engaging, and I found it easy to sympathize with Cheryl, but there's no denying that she's super self-destructive, and I found it kind of funny that she talks an awful lot about how she wants to do each guy that she encounters. Throughout the whole book, I did feel like she was being genuine about her experiences, and I really feel like she didn't really hold back, so like that. Her journey was really impressive, and it makes me want to go backpacking. I gave this book 3.8 stars out of 5. Then I read Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. This is basically a self-help book for introverts like me. So in this book, Cain basically talks about famous people who are introverts, such as Rosa Parks, Dale Carnegie, and Eleanor Roosevelt, and she points out that these people were introverts, but they did great things with their life, so you can too. She also talks about case studies, but after a while they became tedious. And then she talks about science somewhat. Like, Cain uses both psychology and biology to try and explain differences between extroverts and introverts, which was really interesting. The only thing that I didn't like was that this book was like really business centered, and it really aims at introverts that are working in the business arena, and I didn't really relate to that at all. But other than that, this book was helpful. I give this book 3 stars out of 5. So the next book that I read was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I just finished this book last night, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe I waited this long to read it. This book has been sitting on my shelf forever. I've read this book with my boyfriend Daniel. He's still reading it. He just has a couple more chapters, and I cannot believe that I haven't picked this up sooner. It's been on my TBR forever, and I'm like obsessed with this. So I cannot wait to get to the next book. The 3rd book comes out on June 12th, and I'm totally gonna get to that one soon. I don't even want to spoil this for you guys. I don't even think it's like a typical YA book. I feel like this book is so unique, and I am in love with this book. Every character is just so well developed, and I feel like I need to learn more about them. This book is just totally gripping, and I'm just totally mesmerized by it. It's just really compelling. It's fast-paced. The evil characters are just so evil. How could they be like that? I flew through this book. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read was the Bernina Maze by Riordan. This is the 3rd book to the Trials of Apollo. So in the 1st book, Zeus casts down Apollo as a punishment, and he turns him into a mortal teenager as Lester Papadopoulos, who is a flabby mortal with acne. And it's this whole series is just so hysterical and funny, and I forgot how fun it is to be in this mythological world. Yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait for the 4th one to come out next year. I can't wait. So that is all for my May wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to see my latest videos. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Modern day references. This is in what? Which is a superhero.